Hey there guys, Sean here from WinBeta, and welcome to episode 24 of the WinBeta Podcast for the week of July 17th, 2015. With me is co-host Zach Bowden.
Hello.
And this week we'll talk about lots of stories. We got RTM news, probably the biggest news of the week. Not yet officially stated, but is official. The RTM build 10,240.
Yeah, I have a lot to talk about regarding this.
Yep. So don't worry, we got lots of news on that. We have poll results related to if you're going to update to Windows 10. We have Satya Nadella answering questions about Windows Phone and the future. Terry Myerson confirming premium Lumias are on the way. We got Edge being quick. Rumors about the naming of the next Lumia flagships. Band 2 on the way. Actually, quite a bit of news this week, to be honest. And we got to fit all that into a smaller amount of time because we have a very special guest this week. We have Ben Rudolph from Straw. He's also a bigwig over at Microsoft. The interview is mostly about Straw, entirely about Straw, but he's a great interview, so stick around. That'll be at the end of the podcast. But I guess we just got to dive right in because we only have a few minutes here, Zach.
Yeah, so this week, Microsoft officially, they didn't officially RTM it, but they did RTM Windows 10. And I've seen a lot of people on social media and forum boards, and my inbox today was just, you are wrong. The RTM has not been compiled, and I just deleted it all. But yeah, the Windows 10 RTM has been compiled at build 10.240. And reasons people are saying it's not the RTM is because, for one, it was given to insiders, and and Microsoft did say that they were not going to do that. And that's the only point I have. I don't know why I was going to say more than one point. But internally, they did use this build as the RTM. This is the build that was sent to OEMs, so people who actually preload the software onto hardware. So when you buy a Windows 10 device on July 29th, it will come with build 10.240. That is in itself enough to consider a build as RTM. But why Microsoft hasn't actually officially announced this as RTM is because with the Windows as a Service module, Windows 10 is never done. So with build 10.240, when you download the build on day one, it should be build 10.240, but with a number of patches and day one updates, which should increase the Delta build. I think is it the Delta number? The 16384 should increase. It's already increased now. For insiders, you're running 16387. And that is an update that downloads automatically after you install build 10.240, and that has a number of different fixes in it. So although Windows 10 has RTM'd, it's still not finished. Microsoft will continue to work on bug fixes and improvements all the way up to July 29th and beyond for new updates and so on. So on July 29th, sure, consumers may get a slightly different build, but it's still build 10.240, just with a number of different fixes and features enhancements. The modern apps that are pre-installed on Windows 10 will also be continuously updated, as well as they are independent from the build. So Microsoft will push out a number of updates for the modern apps on day one as well to fix any problems they have. So although Windows 10 is RTM'd, development is still on full throttle at the company. So for those who are complaining about any issues they're having with 10.240, who knows? It may get fixed before July 29th. You never know.
Yeah, well, it's a little complicated anyway with this whole Windows 10 as a service model, because like you said, the apps are separate, so they're going to dynamic, including like Edge and like other things like that. So things like Edge going to get updated, apps going to get updated.
Yeah, a lot of things could be updated.
The whole thing could be updated, but then still technically be the same build. And so,
Gus says, in before OEMs get build 9879. That would be pretty funny. No, but yeah, so the RTM is here, and although it's the RTM, Microsoft... this isn't... It's slightly different because it's Windows as a Service, but with Windows 8 and Windows 8.1, there were also day one updates. This isn't really a new concept for the company.
Well, why wouldn't there be? They're going to keep working on this. There might be day 10 updates. There might be day 30 updates. Yeah. There probably will be.
Also, to everyone who keeps telling me it's not the RTM, just shh. Thank you.
It's funny. I know people that know so much about Microsoft, and they talk to people, and they know, and they have inside sources from, just all over. You see these people. And then you go to the comment section in Twitter, and they're like, no, you're wrong. I'm like, trust me, he's not as wrong as you think. I'm not saying that we're perfect. We're not. And I'm not saying that every journalist I know is always right. but there are things that they have info on, and it's just, if people know it, it's known. You know what I mean? So, yeah. You know what I was surprised by, Zach?
What?
Not that most people actually interested in updating pretty much day one. I was actually surprised by how many people are going to wait a little bit.
Yeah, apparently people are sensible, which is surprising, especially on the internet.
And so what we had this week, our guest is Ben Rudolph, for those just tuning in. He's from Straw. They're a polling platform. They have this nice handy-dandy app. It's great. We use it for our polls every week. So we did a poll, actually, and he authored it. So he actually wrote the questions and the options. And you know what? Further proving, in the post with this, I said that he authored it, and then people asked why the question was phrased that way. And I'm like, I didn't write it. He wrote it, and I like it. He said, "Will you be upgrading to Windows 10?" ? And then the choices are, yes, as soon as I can get it, ! Yes, but I'm going to wait a little while, and no, sticking with what I have. So it's not that much.
And those people who are sticking with what they have are boring.
Yeah, well, you got 84% of people said yes as soon as I can get it, which is not that surprising. And it might be a little lower than what I expected, but the fact that it's the vast majority is not surprising. But 13% said, yeah, but it's going to wait a while. And this is, it's over 2,000 votes, so it's a reasonable sample size out of, compared to our listening audience. And yeah, are you surprised that there are that many people? It's over 10%. Are going to wait.
I'm not really surprised. A lot of people are sensible, and a lot of people rely on their PCs a lot. So, for a software update to come along and break something, I just knocked the mic. For an update to come along and break something, that's not good. So, I mean, a lot of people will wait for us guinea pigs, or me, to come along and make sure everything's working great, because that's what I do.
I guess it depends on what type of user you are. Like, for me, Windows 10 is going to be what I want and more, because I don't use, like, some of the features that people want. They're like, oh, well, Edge doesn't have extensions yet. And we're getting to that in a bit. And it's like, well, for me, I don't use extensions. It's just not like a thing I use on browsers. And that's, I know people love them. That's cool. I just don't use them. So for me, that isn't like a drawback of like Edge. So if they say like, oh, it doesn't have this feature in Windows 10, for me, not that much of a drawback, as long as it's stable, which... Yeah. My PC's been anyway, so anything's going to be considered somewhat stable compared to this. So yeah, I thought that was a little high though. But do you think that's for more high-end users, like specific, like you, but not as a journalist, just use specific features?
Yeah, I mean, if I wasn't covering Microsoft, I would still update on day one, because that's just who I am. Yeah. But I mean, I could update right now, but I'm not, because XSplit still doesn't work on the RTM, and that's annoying me. I think it's more of a driver late. I think it's AMD's problem, not XSplit's, which is annoying. But oh well.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess we're gonna move on. Short and show today, right?
Yeah.
So you got Satya Nadella answering questions about Windows Phone. So I'm gonna be honest. I don't do this much. This is an exclusive interview that they got at ZDNet, and I want to pronounce her name right, Zach. You actually know her. Is it Foley?
Mary, I don't really know her. Mary Jo Foley, yes.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's an exclusive interview that she got with Satya Nadella as the original source for this. So I did a recap and like a highlight thing, and obviously I spent time on it, but it's great to see the CEO of Microsoft open up with a journalist and have such a such a candid discussion. There's a lot in it. I just say go read ours and other, in the original as well. We're going to talk about like a little bit of the highlight. The big thing is mobile's here to stay, and it's not really going anywhere, at least for a while. And this from the CEO of Microsoft. So a lot of people with last week's news were like scared. What's the term they use? RUD? Is that what it? RUD?
I have no idea.
Rumors, something of destruction, or anyway, doom. Anyway. So, and people were saying, oh, I hope Satya Nadella comes out and just says this directly. Well, now he has. So there you go. They're not going to leave the mobile market for now. Basically, he says there's OEMs, they want them to build Windows phones, but if they don't, Microsoft will make them. He outlined all the different lines that we've been talking about. said that they're committed. They will have this ecosystem. He referred to Windows 10 Mobile, which Mary actually clarified with a lowercase m, is to include lots of things, not just the phone operating system, but like small tablets and just any mobile device. And mobile is a word, not as like a proper noun. And so like he is planning on mobile. That's like an integral part of their ecosystem.
The question Mary Jo asks him is something along the lines of, is like the Windows Phone technically dead? That's pretty much what she says. And Nadella's response, the first 3 words he uses is, not at all.
Yeah.
And you know what I've seen on Twitter? Even after this, after Miss Foley's amazing interview, people are still saying Windows Phone's dead. Not right now, it's not. Maybe in the future. Windows Phone or Windows Mobile, Windows 10 Mobile, whatever it's called right now, the mobile side of Windows isn't in a good place, I'll admit. It's in trouble, but it's not dead yet. No. Well, and I mean, like I said, this is from him, so I guess just like the other thing, they analogized it, because Kevin Turner had that email last week comparing it to the Surface, where it's like the premier device to show off what an operating system can do. And then Nadella said that's correct. He had a couple clarifications, but ultimately that's a correct analogy. Right. And he basically said, the Surface was kind of, certainly, it wasn't like the first 2-in-1, I assume. I assume those were around, right? Yeah, but not as cleverly done. But not like, but like the Surface did, but it really revolutionized the 2-in-1 market. Yes. And so he says phones with like Continuum, they're trying to stay ahead. He says, we don't want to be behind, we want to be ahead. He referred multiple times to the 3% market share, showing an awareness that Windows Phone is struggling. Basically said, we don't want to be behind the curve, we want to be ahead of it. And then he says, reasons why would people want to join? He goes to, normal things like desktop, billion users that want to develop for that sort of thing. And he also talked about other things like HoloLens, but I kind of just focus on the mobile stuff mostly. But yeah, I mean, for me, Satya Nadella, the quote, he said, not at all, when asked if it was dead. He said more than not at all, but the first 3 words he says is not at all. Yeah. So. And so it's here for a while. I don't know. People are still saying it's dead, I'm sure, but I don't see it. Actually, tidbit, also talked about the Surface Mini. Fun thing in that interview. Because that's a real thing. It was a real thing. Yeah, so there you go. But, I don't know, man. Timeline. How long do you think before they'll even consider killing Windows Phone? I'm going to give it a couple years. Yeah. Oh, you say 2 years, but people are going to keep talking about it every day until then. Windows 10 Mobile should start rolling out later this year. So that's like... So from the end of this year to the end of next year is a year's run. Maybe 3 years then. I might give it 3 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to give it 3 years. And like we said last week, I reckon their goal right now is 10% market share worldwide. If they can get to 10% market share worldwide for mobile before like 2 or 3 years, then that's good. That Windows Phone is on the right path. But I mean, if it's still at, if it's not even at 5% after 3 years, then I guess we're in trouble. I think it'd be interesting, to be honest, to see. I kind of fight this a little bit. It's fun to have people listen to you when you're a journalist, and it's fun to like feel like you're important. But most of this news, we're just writing it down. Like it happens over there, and then we put it here, and you read it over there. And I almost think sometimes people, they try to make like a story when it isn't there. And I don't know how you could read this other than they're there for at least a couple years. Right. But when Windows Phone's dead, yes, you can write that article. But until it's actually dead, let's talk about what it's doing now. Yeah, let's record the history while it happens. You could do predictions, but don't record it as fact, in my opinion. Anyway. Guys, those in the comments, the Gabe in the comments is not the real Gabe. we said this last week, and it's not the real still Gabe. Not the real Gabe. Moving on. It hasn't gotten more. He hasn't gotten more real. And, no. It's my story. Guess what? It is your story. Terry Myerson at this week's Worldwide Partner Conference. Was it this week? Yes, it was. It was. Confirmed. We knew these were coming anyway, but Terry Myerson also mentioned that premium Lumias are on the way. So in other words, we can expect a flagship device later this year. We've already known this. This isn't really news, but it's a great thing to talk about because I'm very excited for the upcoming flagship, especially with the rumored specs and other stuff. It's just good to know that it's coming. It's good to be reminded that as a Windows Phone user who has been waiting for a flagship for over a year now, we've actually got one coming. And I'm sure, like, will you buy the flagship, Sean?
Oh, money.
If money wasn't an issue, would you
I
buy
will
it?
want the flagship day one, and like a person on the first day of on a Steam sale or Black Friday, whoever I'm with is just going to have to be holding my wallet. Like,
No, I will.
No,
I will
can't go to
absolutely
the store.
try and get one if I have the monies.
That'd be
But yeah,
fun.
I mean, wasn't there like a recent rumor saying the new flagship will be as expensive as the iPhone, which is relatively expensive. Let's be fair.
I still think that people don't care that much about what a phone costs in a lot of situations. I'm not. There are people who buy them outright.
Yeah, I buy them outright because I'm not a contract person.
Right, but there are a lot of people who they just get it for like, even if the iPhone or whatever the next Lumia flagship is actually costs $600 or $700, they will pay $200 plus a 2-year contract,
Yes.
which is what they're used to paying.
Yeah.
Like that's like the standard. And so I wonder how many people, because I don't know if it's a U.S. versus non-U.S. thing. I don't know if buying your phone outright is more common in Europe or Australia or Asia or whatever, South America, anywhere around the world. Except the U.S., because I've only lived in 2 continents before. So I don't know which one's more common.
Well, contracts are fairly common around here in the UK. Well, in London at least. I mean, I can't speak for the entirety of the UK.
I just, it depends. Overhead is a big cost. When you get a contract, it's like paying monthly plan. It's like a car payment or a mortgage for your phone. So it's just a little bit every month. And so it is nice, and then I think you get a little bit in discount overall because you agreed to 2 years. I think that's usually how it works out. I wonder how much that'll play a role in how these things sell. It's going to affect you, but is it going to affect Joe Schmo who goes over to Sprint and just wants to try out a new phone? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. But for now, it's good to know.
I mean, you can get phones with zero money down that cost $600. Like,
True,
you know what I
you
mean? It's like, so it's not like it's, I don't know if price is a huge factor for some of these people, but for others it does. Depends on your buying habits.
Considering we're talking about Lumias,
Yeah.
should we jump to the E950?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We might as well. There's a new rumor this week that claims the Lumia 9 or the next Lumia flagship will not be the Lumia 940 as would be logical. Instead, they will jump to the Lumia 950 and 950 XL, echoing that with what they did with Windows 10, I assume. I think that's a stupid idea. And I mean, jumping numbers in software is one thing, but jumping numbers with hardware is just going to confuse people. Or will it? Because it's the Lumia line. No one knows about the Lumia line.
I mean, there's 2 sides to this coin. There's the one you said, that's a bit odd. I have seen some counter arguments. Maybe they're trying to line up everything. There's
But
a
why with
540,
950?
right?
Just do the Lumia 1000.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there's a Lumia 640 now and a 640 XL and a Lumia 540. So maybe they want to release the 50 this year so that like next year the 50s come out and then they somehow get synced. But I don't know. I mean, you and I think they should go away from the numbering system.
Yeah,
So this sounds silly anyway.
The numbering system is poor, I think.
I mean, I still think it'd be a Lumia Surface XL for the high end, and then maybe numbers for the low end. But I just, in general, just something, the Lumia Class, the Lumia Business, I don't know, the Lumia something.
Lumia Class, I like that.
Yeah, Lumia Class and the Lumia Class XL.
Lumia Diamond.
Yeah, I don't know. Just name it something. Like, we've talked about brand names before. Some of them do well, some of them don't. But they all kind of sound silly. A lot of them sound silly until they're popular. Galaxy.
You could have the Lumia Diamond as the flagship, and then you can have the Lumia Copper as like the lowest end one.
The Lumia Tin.
Tinfoil. That's it. We are the best
Lumia plastic
marketers
Tupperware.
in the world.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, but yeah, and this is just a rumor as well, but the Lumia 950 and 950 XL. What happens if they don't even call it the 950 XL? What if the 2 rumored flagships are the Lumia 840 and the 940? Dun, dun, dun. That's just adding to the rumor mill, isn't it?
Well, actually, no, because the rumors are 2 different sizes, so it wouldn't make any sense.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, if anything, it could have been the 15. They could jump from the 1520 to the 1550.
Or the 1555, why not? Or the 5555. Let's just jump to any number. That's called the Lumia 10240.
Oh, that'd be clever. No, I think they need to have words because people aren't. Oh, is that the Lumia 930? Is that the Lumia 950? Is that the Lumia 950 XL?
Let's name it really long just to annoy people.
They do that. Microsoft.
The Lumia 19240 84960.
All right, comment section, live and non-live. What precious or non-precious metal would you name the
Lumia Doge, Lumia Nickel.
Yeah, Lumia Nickel, etc. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a bit odd to me. I just want the devices to be here.
Yeah, I don't care what it's called. Just give me a flagship. Thank you very much, Microsoft.
Yeah, the Lumia flagship and the Lumia flagship XL.
There you go. That's perfect.
Fun. Oh, man.
Oh, the Lumia Edge.
Ooh.
That could be good.
See, this is what I mean. Like, these brands, they can sound cool.
Yeah, with other brands. Speaking of Edge.
Yeah, hey, look at that. Edge, Edge is fast.
I'm good at these
really fast.
segues now.
Remember I didn't want to spoil it because it was so good. You segued so well, I was going to say something, but I was like, no, do this smoothly. Anyway, so Edge is fast. It's really, really fast. In fact, according to some JavaScript benchmarks, it is performing, I think it's actually slightly more than, twice as fast as Google Chrome.
It's called Sonic Speed.
112% faster than Chrome. Remember, with percentages, it's a bit tricky because in the next it says 100% higher than Google. You know, you got to be careful with these. The point is it's faster, which is great. I've actually, you've used Edge a little more than me. I've used it a little bit. I've actually found it quite quick in my experience.
Weirdly, build 10240 dramatically improved performance for me just for the operating system overall. But 10166 was great in itself, but upgrading to 10240 it's really strange. It's a lot smoother and faster for me at least. Well,
yeah. I mean, I wonder. Like I said, I wonder how many more updates and bug fixes they had in 240. You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna. They don't just compile it and then release it the next day. So I'm sure they knew that one of these was going to be RTM. Yeah. So I'm glad it's smoother. I have found Edge pretty quick. Now that's Edge Mobile. You use Edge Desktop and Edge Mobile. I think it's pretty smooth. It'll be interesting to see if that sticks around. Because you said Chrome was originally really fast, right?
Yes, Chrome when it first came out was the reason Chrome took off in popularity is because of its sheer speed, and surprisingly, Chrome was very lightweight when it first came out, which is a different story these days.
Is there really such thing as a lightweight browser now?
Not anymore. All of them are kind of like ugh, but
So yeah, it's a little interesting. Will Edge be as fast when it's done? It's not fully featured yet, so wouldn't that bog it down?
Could do.
This is what I mean. It's hard to tell.
Extensions will definitely slow it down.
Yeah, I think Edge is going to be fast, but my question is that what it needs to succeed? If they could come out and say, according to, and they will, trust, if these numbers are accurate, they're going to say it. They're going to say, according to this test, we're faster. This test, and then they'll go like this, and they'll say, even Google's own Octane tests proves that Edge is faster. They'll say, I can 99% guarantee that if that statistic is true, they will stop and say, even Google's own test says that we're faster.
Well, so did you know, this is a secret nobody knows, but if you turn Edge into dark mode, it goes 1% faster.
Ooh.
That's a joke, guys. That was not true. But if we believe Harden, if we add it to the feedback app, Microsoft will do that for us.
So for me, I wonder if that's what it takes to succeed. Because we've talked about this at infinitum, Zach, about brands and success and what makes a successful product and what makes a successful service. And even if in a year, because obviously extensions, if Edge is faster and has extensions and works well and looks nice and has all the modes people want, will people adopt it? I don't know. What do you think?
I still think it relies on the extensions thing. Regardless of how far, it could be the fastest thing in history. If it doesn't have, an extension somebody uses to browse the web, because people get attached to their extensions.
They do.
They do. So, I mean, Edge is launching without extensions, which I think is a big mistake. But what can you do about it? I think it still relies on extensions for it to succeed.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, yeah, it's the features, because browsers aren't just about speed anymore. Maybe on your phone, but I could see like Edge being sold pretty well on like Windows Phone if it's really quick, because I don't run extensions on my phone, obviously,
No, yeah, I mean, somebody asked me if extensions were coming to the mobile Edge. I'm not sure, right? Because I mean, does Chrome Mobile have Edge extension support? I don't use Android. I don't know. I offended Android users earlier on Twitter.
I'm sure one of our listeners does, and they'll let us know. If you can, please let us know about Chrome, if they have extensions on mobile. I don't think they do, but that's just kind of guessing, honestly. Yeah. I think it's extensions. I think it's features, because it's not. I don't even know. I don't use extensions like I said, but I know like ad block. People are like, I will not use a browser without ad block. That's just like a huge thing for people.
For those who use ad block, please whitelist WinBeta.org.
Yeah, whitelist. I want to be able to.
Yeah, if you don't whitelist us, we can't do the podcast no more.
Exactly. We'll have to close the podcast down. Anyway. Yes, we only got one more story before the interview, right?
Yes, and it's your story.
It is. Zach, you have a Microsoft band.
I do, somewhat.
And it just came out in England just a few months ago, right?
Yes.
How does it make you feel that there's a new one coming out?
You know what? I'm okay with. I mean, because the rumor originally was last month, wasn't it? Coming in June, even though it came out.
It's gonna be it'll be later this year, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, the original rumor was they're making a band 2. It's coming in June, only a month after it came out in the UK in April. But if they're saying it's coming later in the year, I'm going to guess around the time the original band was released. So I'm okay with that, really. As long as the band 2 launches in the UK at the same time. If they do a whole weighty thing again, I'm not happy with that.
I have to admit, I grew up in the US for like my whole life, and I didn't recognize that like Microsoft really doesn't support other countries the same. Like until you live somewhere where you can't buy a thing that you want, or you can't use a service that you like, it's you don't see it as like a real problem. It's like, oh, why don't you do this? Well, you can't always just switch your language mode because it's hardware. I want the Microsoft foldable keyboard that is now out and came out this week. And now I'm going to the States soon, so I'm going to buy it when I'm there. But it's not here, and you can't get it. And so things like the band and these hardware and specs and stuff, they need to close that gap. They need to ship them the same day around the world, because it does get frustrating. Can you imagine if it was this holiday, if they did the same cycle, came out this fall or winter, Microsoft band? I'm going to go with V2. I think it sounds better than just 2. But in any event, because that's in his quote, that's what he said, was V2. They're working on V2 and beyond.
Yeah.
That's why it's like a confirmed thing.
I just hope the second band is more of a smartwatch than a fitness band. And by that, I also mean I hope it's not as chunky as the original one. Because look at that. It is a hefty piece
It's a fitness band.
Yeah, you walk around this, you're already working out just by moving your hands.
Put one on each wrist and you'll have, Arnold-style biceps. I think it'll probably just be a thinner band 1, but that's not based on anything other than just...
even if it's the same thing but thinner, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you see now, anytime there's a new fitness device that's really thin, people will say things like, this new thin band does the same thing as blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, thin! And that's what people want. Well, because it's annoying when you have, like, weighted training clothes.
When you have that on you, yeah, it's quite annoying.
I'm not Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Like, I don't need weighted wristbands.
It's just so...
Yeah. Anyway, so I hope it comes. I hope it comes before Christmas. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And they update that band pretty well,
They do. I mean, they just launched web tiles, didn't they?
Mm.
Which we should get a web tile.
We should get web tile.
About that. Ron, get on that.
Yeah, Ron, if you're listening live now, we'd love a web tile. That's what I love about like hardware nowadays. I'm amazed when they're like the Xbox, that's been out sitting in your living room for like a year. It now can do new stuff, like completely new features like Miracast. You didn't even know that hardware was in there. And you're like, Okay.
Did you know your band can make you coffee? You did.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't know, just some of the updates that they have with the because there's so many sensors and hardware specs in there that they can update the software to do so much. I think it's great.
Before we move on to the interview, there's someone in the comments that continues to say, and is practically spamming the comment section, saying build 15151 has leaked. No, it hasn't.
You're close to being blocked, my friend.
Yeah, I'm not even. I can't even ban you. So, shh.
Don't tell them that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I guess now we switch over to the interview. It's about time to do that. We'll come back afterward, etc., etc.
And for those live listeners, the after party.
Yes.
I love that. It might be shorter actually this week.
I don't know. We'll see.
I might have to go quite soon. Anyway, interview time.
So here we go. Yeah, interview Ben Rudolph from Microsoft and Straw. All right, so joining us today we have Ben Rudolph. He is the co-founder of Pull with Straw and also works for Microsoft. Thank you for joining us today, Ben.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So if you could just briefly go over your role both at Microsoft and then also as co-founder of Pull with Straw.
Sure. Let me start with Microsoft first. So I've been at Microsoft about 7 years, most of that time in PR. I think most of your listeners probably know me best from when I was in Windows Phone and I was running the Windows Phone Challenge, which was that big experiential marketing piece that we did across TV, cinema, in-store experiential, talk about why Windows Phone is such a great option. Now I run worldwide retail evangelism. And what that effectively means is my team is responsible for everything that we do globally to educate, inspire, and build community for retail pros who sell Microsoft products and services in a retail environment. So if you've ever been to a Best Buy or a Dixon's or a Fnac or a Staples and talked to a professional there who is selling you a PC or a device or Office, if you've ever been into like a GameStop or a game in the UK to talk about Xbox and Xbox games, my team does all the training materials. We manage the field labor representatives who actually go into stores and work with the pros, community, CRM, we do in-person events, and the team operates all around the world. We're active in about 70 countries and 30 languages.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's almost a legit operation.
You know, I actually have a lot to thank you for, Ben, because your Windows Phone Challenge marketing campaign was the reason I actually switched to Windows Phone.
That's great.
It was the reason I jumped ship, which was pretty interesting.
Excellent. Well, then I'm glad it was working. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been attached to some pretty big campaigns that I've seen, so it's great. You want to explain kind of what your role with Pull with Straw as co-founder is, and then we'll kind of go through what that actually is as a platform?
Yeah, sure. You kind of just nailed it because we're still a very small operation. So I'm one of 4 co-founders at Straw. And we'll get into what it is in depth, but Straw is effectively a social polling application. Allows you to get advice and opinions from friends, followers, and the entire internet by posting simple polls across SMS, social media, or our Strawcast feature. My role as one of the founders is to give you a bit of background. So there are 4 of us. It's myself, Craig Kitterman, Jason Wilmot, and Nate Gunderson. All of us work at Microsoft. But all of us have a very distinct background. Obviously, my background is in PR, marketing, advertising. Jason, his background is in operations and sales. Craig is a product marketing manager for Visual Studio Online. He has a very deep developer background. He was an engineer. And Nate is a design lead on the Skype team. So we cover kind of design, engineering, sales, marketing, promotion. So we have a pretty good background.
So Ben, for those who don't actually know, can you briefly explain what Straw actually is?
Yeah, you bet. So Straw is a social polling application. It's available for Windows Phone, iOS, and Android, completely free. And what it does is allow you to get advice and opinions from people all over the world, whether they be friends, followers, or the entire internet, by posting simple polls. App is super simple to use. You open it up, you create a poll, ask your question. You can use text, pictures, or both. You add a couple of answers, and then you choose where you want to post the poll. So you can post it if you want a very small sample size, just to your friends via SMS. You can post to any combination of social networks, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, WhatsApp. Or if you want to broadcast the entire internet, you can use our Strawcast feature, which anonymously posts your poll to everybody who has the Straw app installed on their phone. and also broadcast the poll to the @Strawcast Twitter handle, so you can get a sample size that really covers a broad base of people all over the world. Wherever anybody votes, whether it's through a Facebook post, a LinkedIn post, Twitter, whatever, you get the data back in a super visual way inside the app in real time. So I can ask something like, where should I go for dinner tonight? Should we go get Chinese, Italian, Mexican, or go get steaks? And I can post that, set a duration, say an hour, 5 hours a day. People can vote on it, and then I can see in a pie chart which selection won. So it really helps me make a better, more informed, data-driven decision on everything from something mundane, like where should I get dinner, all the way up to something major, like what color should I paint my house or what car should I buy next.
So how did Straw actually come to be? Why make a polling platform?
Well, it was because we found that social media is hard. And it's really hard to get. That's the best way I can put it. And like, I'll tell you the history. This was about, I guess, last January. The four of us were at a New Year's Eve party. I think we were over at Craig's house, and we were all talking about college football. And we were talking, who do you have in this game? Who's got the best running back? What do you think about this matchup? And we realized that when you're trying to have those kinds of meaningful conversations, even if it's about something like sports, but it's meaningful at the time, getting an opinion in person, very easy. Having a meaningful conversation on social media, actually kind of difficult, especially in a world where lots of us have multiple social media personalities. Like, I have about 600 connections on Facebook, but I have 37,000 Twitter followers. And those are wildly different groups of people. I have friends and close acquaintances on Facebook, and then a broad base of people who are technology fans on Twitter. So if I were to ask something like, who do you have in the game this weekend? Do you have the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks? If I post that on Facebook, everyone's going to say Seahawks because most of my people are from Seattle. If I post it on Twitter, some people are going to say Seattle, some people are going to say New Orleans, some people are going to say both teams suck, some people are going to say Patriots rule, some people are going to be like, I hate, it's not football, football's a game you play with your feet, not with your hands, what's wrong with you idiots, right? It's like the conversation just kind of devolves and fragments. And so we're like, well, how do you actually get meaningful results so you can keep that conversation focused and cut through the clutter? Well, you run a poll. And to test this, I actually ran an impromptu poll on Twitter just to see what would happen. This was right before we started Straw. This is probably maybe about a year ago. I dropped my beloved Lumia 1520, right? Just blew it to shreds. It was like one of those, walking down the stairs, dropped it, fumbled for it, added extra velocity and rotation as it was falling, hit the ground, boom, blown to smithereens. Now, that was interesting. Cortana just opened up. I don't know what I just said, but she just popped up to be helpful on the.
She's sympathizing.
Exactly. It's like, so I posted something on Twitter, and I said, "What color Lumia 1520 replacement should I get? White, black, red, or yellow?" And I got 50 people to write back, but only about 40 of them actually answered the question. Some of them answered the question. Some of them were like, Windows Phone sucks, buy an iPhone. Some people were like, you should get a purple one. And I'm like, well, we don't make a purple one. So I don't know where I'd get that. That sounds great, but I don't know who to call. I could call Elop at the time, but so I was like, and then I realized that if I was going to actually take the recommendation of my network, well, how did I tell which one won? What my crowd, what my group of people voted on. So I ended up sitting there with a piece of paper making tally marks, running through my feed to get to the right answer. And we were like, man, there's got to be a better way. And the better way was Straw. And now it's something that I rely on all the time if I'm, making a purchase decision, if, I'm just trying to decide what kind of movie I want to go see. I start to form my own opinion, and then I validate that opinion with a straw poll.
Right. There are a lot of different kinds of polling platforms out there. What do you think differentiates Straw for just people who are looking for a platform to poll on?
So I would say three things. One is simplicity. We designed Straw to be as fast and easy as possible. You can log in in a matter of seconds with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Microsoft account. You can create a straw account. Whatever's the easiest, most lightweight way for you to do it, you can log in. Creating a poll, you can create a poll in 30 seconds. It's incredibly easy to create a poll. If you're just doing a simple text poll, it is not a cumbersome. The UI is really, really lightweight. So those are two. And then, of course, like how easy it is to see your results. Like, it's incredibly visual. You can do a lot with those results. It's very, very easy to log in, create a poll, get your results back. The second is distribution. And what I mean by that is I think we have something very interesting in the fact that you can poll from an incredibly narrow user base, as in like the three of us, maybe and a couple other guys, we're trying to decide where we want to go meet up after work. I can post a simple poll just to you guys via SMS and decide which restaurant or bar we want to go to. I can go broader across my social networks and post to Facebook or Facebook and Twitter or Twitter and LinkedIn, or I can go incredibly broad and poll the entire internet. So I really can go from an incredibly wide funnel down to an incredibly narrow funnel if I want. And the third thing is kind of a clip-on to that second piece, which is Strawcast. And Strawcast is something that's pretty unique, not just because it gives you this broad distribution, but because it's completely anonymous. Like, anonymity on the internet can be a great thing, it can be a bad thing, right? Part of the problem with anonymity is there's lots of trolling, right? I can say horrible things about your podcast, and you might never know who I am. So if you wonder who that guy is in the comments, it might be me. I'm kidding. Like, but you know what I mean? It's like people can be mean and they can be really rude because nobody knows who they are. On the flip side, anonymity can be very powerful because it allows me to ask questions and give responses in a way where I know that nobody can make fun of me, or at least not personally. So Strawcast allows you to do that because anything you post to Strawcast is completely anonymous. And anything that you vote on, or those voting on a poll via Strawcast, is also completely anonymous. So if I can ask the most sensitive question that I want data back on without any fear of being trolled or made fun of, and I can vote even if I have an unpopular opinion without any fear of retribution. And that's a really interesting thing that really keeps that data pretty pristine and allows people to ask honestly and respond honestly without any of the worst part of the internet, like that trolling that we all hate.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly a great feature. I use Straw quite a bit. And just from the answering end, it's also great to have anonymity because you might answer a little more honestly just because you know no one knows that it's you. Also great for getting feedback.
That's exactly right.
So with Strawcast, you recently had a major update that introduced that, and it also introduced web embedding as well, which allows you to embed polls onto websites, which we actually do on a pretty regular basis. So how do those help people get poll results from a wider audience?
Well, I think the embed code was key. It was one of the number one things that people asked us for. They're like, I love using the app. I love creating polls through the app, but I run a blog or I write for a site like yours, and not everybody is following me on Twitter, but I want to be able to ask my readers or my viewers or my whatever a specific question. So this allows you to then get that same, just like we talked about that wide funnel or that narrow funnel. Now I can ask a specific audience. And I can embed it onto my site. I can ask the question, and I can get real contextual data that helps guide, either give color to the story that I've just written, or guide the comments that are happening after that story. So it's not the kind of thing where you're like, I heard that X happened. Like, I know that everybody believes blah. Like, well, no, they don't, because I have poll data that proves otherwise. It just keeps that conversation a little more civil and a little more focused.
So you say embedded polls was a user-requested feature. Can we expect any more user-requested features soon? So
at this point, we're looking at how do we make polling more useful. Those are the big things that we made a ton of improvements in Straw 2.0 in terms of usability for users, and now you can, for example, you can edit live polls. In the first version, if you made a typo in a poll, you had to close that poll to fix the typo. Now you don't have to do that. There are just these kind of I call them basic fixes just to make the site more usable, or makes the app more usable. Now we're looking at how do we make Strawcast more usable? How do we make polling more usable? So these are things like, is there a way that we can constructively allow people to add more than 4 options to a poll. That's not difficult on the back end. It is a challenge on the UI and the UX side on how you actually display that data. So that's something we're investigating now. We're looking at things like how do we improve on poll embedding? How do we allow people to make Strawcast more useful and either opt in or opt out of certain types of polls, for example? Is there a way that, not to create Straw as a new social network, but we know that people like voting other people's Strawcast polls, but I might want to vote more heavily on sports and technology and less on ladies' shoes. So how can we, both either on the front end or intelligently through machine learning on the back end, help Strawcast get smarter to help people self-select into the stuff that's most relevant and most interesting and where they have the most valid opinion?
Well, yeah, that sounds like a lot of different things to work on your end. As I said earlier, we use Strawcast every week, actually, for our poll for the podcast that go up every Wednesday, and it's helped us receive quite a few votes. We had over 2,000 people respond to our poll about the future of Windows Phone after last week's news, and it's become a regular feature on the site to show us listener feedback. What are some of the more interesting polls that you've seen on Straw, and what types of polls seem to be the most popular?
Well, we get a lot of technology polls, as you can imagine. I think that's largely due to, it's myself and the other guys. Like, we live in a very technologically savvy world. We have a lot of friends and followers in that world. So we get lots of questions about what games to buy, what phone to buy. That's kind of cool. Something that just happened last week that was one of the most interesting polls that I've seen was some political advocate, like pundit, in the Dominican Republic posted a poll about who are you going to vote for in the next presidential election. And the thing just blew up in the world of Dominican politics. We have over 50,000 votes on that poll. And granted, the Dominican Republic is not that big of a country. But what we've seen now is that because of that, like, this was like a major political poll being run using our humble little app. And we've seen other Dominican politicians now grabbing the app and running their own polls. So we're huge in the Dominican Republic right now, which is kind of funny. There's a guy, Zach, in your side of the world, who is he runs the fan community for the York Football Club.
Oh, wow. And
he's constantly running polls about uniform design and stadium seating and matchups. And it's become something where, like, his community, now granted, York's not a huge football club, but like, they have an avid fan base and they're relying on Straw to help guide the conversation with their fans. And I think that's really cool. There is I think it's a Project Gotham racing club, maybe on PlayStation, that has a couple hundred members. And when they're deciding where they want to, it's a Gran Turismo. When they're deciding what races they want to hold that weekend with their car club, they use Straw to decide that. And I mean, these are things, everything from like, I'm playing video games with my friends to who's going to be the leader of our country that people are starting to decide with Straw. And that's like, it's impressive and humbling. Like, it's impressive that like people are using it in that way. And it's incredibly humbling that they're like relying on this little thing that we built to make these decisions about like everything from how they want to spend their spare time to having really deep, meaningful political discussions. And all that is powered by Straw.
Well, honestly, that's really something else. I didn't know that about the Dominican Republic. That's a pretty cool story, and things like this pick up traction like that.
Exactly right.
Well, that's all the questions we have today. We really appreciate the time, Ben.
Yeah, we know you're very busy, so thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, you bet. Happy to be here to talk about Straw. Anytime you need me, let me know. Happy to jump on.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Thanks.
And that was the wonderful Ben Rudolph.
Oh, man. That was really hard to change our clothes.
Yeah, we had to really quickly change our clothes. That was super fast. But yes, we did that quite successfully, as you can see.
Yeah. Well, thanks again to Ben. Love that he was on the show. I love Straw. We'll put a download link when we post the rebroadcast up. I saw in the comments, said, where can we get the app? I will put some download links. Why not? Put them for all 3 platforms. Sure, whatever. I'll figure it out. Anyway, so yeah, this has been the WinBeta Podcast, episode 24. for the week of July 17th. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Sean Michael. You can find me on Twitter at Sean_Michael_UK.
Look, his actual, it's there. It's on the screen now.
That's on the screen. Audio listeners, pay attention closely. I'm sure you caught it. And then, as always, with me is our other co-host, Zach.
And you can follow me with the Twitter handle on screen. I'm not even going to say it now. Actually, I should say we've got audio listeners at ZachB_.
There you go. Yep, you always follow WinBeta at WinBetaDOT.org. Follow it, and then go to the site for the latest news on Windows 10, Surface, Windows Phone, everything Microsoft related, and all your latest and greatest news. And we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.